Hello, it's Christmas! Or at least, when I'm recording this, it's Christmas Day! Ho-ho, let's see what's behind door number 25. And without being yet another individual to say those immortal words, it has been a year. Why? Why? But during this festive period of isolation, loneliness, and sadness, we can always turn to the comfort food of video games that is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. A fun and somewhat mindless game that I'll be playing today, Boxing Day, and all the way through to the new year. Because sometimes you just need to roll around in a big pile of junk food. And Age of Calamity is that. Well, except for it's in video game form.
So, what is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity? Well, it's a Warriors game, or a Musou game, which originate from Dynasty Warriors, a long-lasting series in which every installment tells the tale of the Three Kingdoms. Every one, again and again. But here, in Hyrule Warriors, there's only one kingdom, the Kingdom of Hyrule. These sorts of games are normally defined by their large battlefields, littered with a number of troops who are basically just there for you to kick to death in ever-increasingly extravagant combos. You're not here for an accurate depiction of combat. You, as a lone soldier, will cut through a battlefield and kill literally thousands of enemy troops, as if you're cutting through so much butter.
But that's the point of these games, a catharsis engine of sprinting around a map, murdering absolutely everything you can lay your eyes on. There is in theory a tactics element involved because there are a number of outposts scattered around the maps that you need to capture, and you know, sometimes the enemy might try and recapture them. Hoo-hoo. But realistically, that's not that important because you will just be sprinting headfirst at the enemy, knocking the stuffing out of them. But we're in the Kingdom of Hyrule, specifically the Kingdom of Hyrule from Breath of the Wild. Specifically, again, the Kingdom of Hyrule from Breath of the Wild 100 years ago, prior to all the destruction that happened. Yeah, that's the one.
So, Breath of the Wild is meant to tie all the Zelda timelines together, which came about through a number of time travel escapades. And Age of Calamity is meant to be a sort of prequel to that game. However, it's not really actually a prequel. Instead, we follow a little robot egg as it travels through time into a new timeline. The idea here is that our lovely egg robot has seen the horrors that befall the world. Yeah, that's the one, and goes back in time to stop that from happening. The plot then more or less follows as you'd expect, getting together a number of divine heroes, murdering waves upon waves of bokoblins, and saving the day in one way or another. But that's not the point of the game, essentially.
Oh my.
Don't get me wrong, the game has an engaging enough of a story and manages to bring forwards that unique sense of weirdness that you'll find in Legend of Zelda games.
Oh, me? I am the one who brings song and dance to Korak Forest! Presto!
Yes, you can play as a tree who murders by shaking his maracas.
Show me your moves!
It is important to the plot. But the main focus is basically doing all the murder.
On your quest to save Hyrule from the forces of evil, you'll be partaking in a number of various missions that all basically dissolve around into killing a lot of people, capturing various points, and getting to locations. And I'm aware that I've sort of just described every video game ever, but without actually even needing to abstract things that significantly, that is basically what the game is. All combat, all the time, and sometimes not all the time because you're actually just looking at a map.
Age of Calamity has the map from Breath of the Wild, but now with more bits and pieces on it, and also a lot less open world exploration, by which I mean there is none. After completing missions, you'll unlock a number of various bits and pieces to deal with. Oh god, that's way too many. Some of these will be alternate combat scenarios to fight your way through, while others require a number of resources you'll have gathered through your murderous onslaught to upgrade shops, get more items, or improve your various characters with longer combos and more health. A lot of these are kind of mindless and you're just vaguely hitting boxes to make the flashing lights happen, but some of them make the flashing lights cooler. Primarily the ones that make your combat combos longer and even cooler looking.
Yes, now is the time that we talk about the combat in this game, which is like the main thing you'll be doing. As you're sprinting around, knocking enemies left and right, you'll be coming to terms with the various characters and their different mechanics and different combos that they'll be doing, and slowly mastering each and every character and getting to grips with what they can do. That's like the bread and butter of this game as they slowly evolve and get more skills and more new abilities for you to learn and use. Sure, you could probably just spam the same move over and over and over again and never really expand anyone. Sure, yeah, you could do that. Cool, fine. But also that's really boring.
Combat is based around alternating between light attacks and strong attacks, as well as mixing in a variety of unique talents and quirks that each character has. Rivali can fly around, Urbosa makes lightning happen, and Zelda is just plain terrible to use. To some extent, the game never gets much more complicated than just smashing the buttons and watching the world die around you. But you can also use a variety of other bits and pieces to make your life easier, or more fun. Perfectly timed dodges allow you to do flurries, and sometimes enemies will start doing certain attacks that will require you to use your Sheikah Slate's powers to deal with them. All of these slowly break down their guard, allowing for a large, flashier move to take the enemy down. Not these enemies. These enemies die easily. Specifically, the enemies that are just slightly larger. And there will be a lot of them. Now, if you've played Breath of the Wild, you'll remember that you can equip Link in all sorts of various gear with a number of effects. And that still happens here as well. Well, not my Link. I stripped him down to his pants as soon as possible. But Link does at least have 3 different weapon archetypes to use that all feel surprisingly unique, such as a mop. Or I guess a spear? I'm cleaning up the battlefield.
However, it isn't just laying waste to the forces of Ganon with your trusty mop. No, because you also have the divine beasts, these ancient artifacts that are piloted by your, good pals, and you use those also to take on Ganon's evil forces. Or in some cases, saving the Korok Forest. Oh, do you think maybe we're the bad guys with the weapons of mass destruction? Here's the thing. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is kind of somewhat limited in scope, in that, well, I don't think there's any more I can say about the game other than what I have already explained. Like, it is a game about smashing buttons to kill hundreds to thousands of enemies over and over again, and it just feels good. You're running around trying to save Hyrule from Calamity Ganon 100 years prior to Breath of the Wild, now featuring a upsettingly cute child Prince Sidon.
What a brave little brother I have.
It is consistently light-hearted, dumb, and fun, as you slowly but surely get this story of personal growth for Link and Zelda. All at the same time, there's a cute little robot egg tooting all over the place.
Leave me out of this. If you must fight, do it elsewhere.
Come back here, you whiny little...
And to be honest, the game doesn't necessarily need to be more than that. It's perfectly fine the way it is.
With these sorts of games, you're not really looking for some great deep dive into the human psyche. You're not looking for cutting-edge mechanics that'll have your brain twisted this way and that. The Warrior games are often just silly fun. Somewhat mindless and pointless fun. And there is nothing wrong with that. When you're playing Age of Calamity, it provides enough fun to quieten out the actual Age of Calamity in our hearts. But also in reality. The thing is though, there is already a Hyrule Warriors game. A game that I think might actually be better. You see, you need to ask yourself, if I'm the sort of person looking for mindless fun that I can pick up and play easily enough, why should I get this and not Fire Emblem Warriors? Well, Fire Emblem Warriors is bad, but why would you get this and not Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition? And that's a harder question to answer. I played Hyrule Warriors many years ago on the Wii U, and I personally think that maybe it's just a better game. There's just a lot more going on in it. There's more characters to play as, and a number of the characters have different types of weapons, so different playstyles, which make them seem more interesting. And the way the game presents all the extra stuff is in a style that means you can just sort of plug away at it forever, but also whilst knowing that it's entirely optional stuff. Age of Calamity has a slightly more limited roster of characters, but it also just feels slightly more limited in scope. If I'm honest, I'd say if your desire for a Nintendo Warriors game lies purely at the first thought of wanting a Nintendo Warriors game, then get Hyrule Warriors, the first one. It is a genuinely fun game that encompasses a best-of style of storytelling throughout the entirety of the Zelda universe. However, if you've already played that game, or your main exposure to Zelda comes from Breath of the Wild, or you're just enamored with that setting, that world and those characters, then get Age of Calamity.
Whatever could you be, little one?
Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity may not be a game that makes me think in any way, shape or form, but it is a game that manages to entertain me often enough to make it appealing and bring a smile to my face. It is perfectly okay for it to be that mindless entertainment for you to just decongest to after a long year. It's something that I'm just happy to pick up and play every day, slowly but surely filling out the map and completing more and more of the game, as well as just more and more of the characters.